Linear systems aren't necessarily broken. They're just not built for women who lead from their soul, who listen to their intuition, their energy. What looks like procrastination is really your body and your energy tuning into self-preservation. And what looks like resistance is the readiness waiting for the right rhythm. This is all your body trying to get your attention, have you look at the energy behind what you're doing. You've gone on this beautiful healing journey and you're here to show up and guide others to do the same. Welcome to the Portal series, a sacred transmission for the woman who's ready to be seen, not for performing, not for doing more, not the girl boss, but for as a living embodiment of her truth. Hi, I'm Lauren Chalantani, priestess, podcast host, and sacred visibility mentor. And in this series, I'm guiding you through the deeper frequencies of what visibility really means when you're let your body lead the way. So if you've ever bought the course, the mastermind, the template pack, followed the plan, but ended up spiraling and not getting the results you wanted, this episode is for you. Because your body already knows what strategy is trying to get you to remember. And today we're talking about why linear systems were never meant to hold the cyclical wisdom that we held in our body as women, and how the spiral is the sacred strategy. So take a breath and let's begin. If you have ever bought a $2,000 plus $5,000 strategy course only to end up on your living room floor 3 weeks later crying, welcome to the club. You thought that you were investing in clarity, but what you really did was outsource your inner authority. And I'm here to tell you it's not your fault. You were taught that that was a formula, was safer than actually flowing, than actually tuning inward. But what looks like inconsistency is often your energy begging for rhythm, begging for more. Linear systems aren't necessarily broken. They're just not built for women who lead from their soul, who listen to their intuition, their energy. Because when your energy is cyclic, your creativity moves through in seasons, creation, contraction, expression, and integration. That is the spiral. I remember when I was doing an early launch in my business where I did everything by the book. I bought a full system of how to launch, the emails, the posts, even to the Instagram stories, and I did it all. And halfway through, I could feel my body was like almost like that desperation, like, please work, please work, please work. And I ended up being exhausted when I didn't get the results that I hoped for, resentful, and overall just wanted to numb out. And I thought, like, this is not what success feels like. This is not what I signed up for when I wanted to start my business and help other people. And then I realized I had confused devotion with depletion, with outsourcing my authority. I thought that purpose, that girl boss mentality required pain, but my body wasn't resisting success. It was really rejecting the strategy that didn't honor her. To anchor this in as a reframe, strategy without soul is not strategy. It's just self-abandonment dressed up as ambition. And yes, we need to know things like how to create an Instagram reel or how to create an email sequence. What's a good template for what's a good template for a hook to grab the attention? But if you're doing some plug and play thinking that somebody else knows better for you than what your heart knows, then that is strategy without soul. So let's talk about why this happens. Because high strategy without that energetic alignment creates shame in your body. You spiral when you can't follow through, and you doubt your worth when you slow down or don't produce. But your body is not broken. She's just really bored of pretending to be a machine and overly masculine when she's built on cycles. What looks like procrastination is really your body and your energy tuning into self-preservation. And what looks like that inconsistency is this intuitive pacing. And what looks like resistance is the readiness waiting for the right rhythm. As you can see, this is all your body trying to get your attention, trying to have you look at the energy behind what you're doing. I know you've gone on this beautiful healing journey and you're here to show up and guide others to do the same. But what you don't realize a lot of the time is all of those things we just talked about are actually showing you that you're bringing in that old paradigm still, that you're still believing that you need to do more, that that girl boss needs to prove her worth in order to succeed. And do we need to show up? Of course, we need to show up and provide. But this is really underlining the energy, the frequency in which we do show up. A lot of the time, when we show up and we have integrated, the time between the manifestation happening and our creation happening tends to shrink or almost feels like snap of the finger, quantum leap. This podcast I've had since 2017 or 18. And over 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I started health coaching. And while I still lead with the body, even just listening to this episode, you can really tell that I've changed. My interests have evolved. What I'm about has evolved. And so has my customer, so has my client, so has my listeners. So at the time, I was hosting Witchy Wellness Radio a few years ago still. Few years and really successful, and that really taught me to keep showing up and keep listening to my body at first. I just felt the knowingness, the wisdom to keep sharing and keep having these guests on. But then it got to a point, even though it was successful, top 2% podcasts, hundreds of thousands of downloads, it looked successful on paper, but it got to a point where I felt like every episode I was performing for a previous version of myself that no longer existed. And so, even though it was successful, I realized I had to stop. I didn't have a plan yet. I didn't have an explanation quite yet, but just a pause for a few months, actually. At first, it really felt like a free fall. I was worried that I'd lose momentum, the numbers, my audience, all of those worries were coming in, but it just didn't feel aligned anymore. It just felt like I was playing small, like I was putting myself in a box. And so I took time. And in that stillness, when those voices finally quieted, something else spoke up. And the theme was sovereignty. So the Sovereign Self show was born. And the name came through like lightning, just like the original name for Witchy Wellness Radio came through. And it wasn't just a rebrand. I knew that it was like a resurrection. It was the recreation, the phoenix rising from the ashes, because I finally let what was no longer in alignment, what at once was so exciting and expansive, finally die. And it was scary. It was uncomfortable. But in order to do that, I was able to allow the real, the new, expansive, authentic, sovereign self to rise. So remember, your power isn't in staying consistent necessarily with who you were. It's about tuning in and honoring who you're becoming, even when it costs you that control, even when you need to pause. Because that is owning your inner authority. That is surrendering and trusting the divine to speak through to you. So let's talk about the spiral, the cycle as sacred strategy. When you stop forcing that forward motion, just like I did with Witchy Wellness Radio, you make room for the divine redirection. You're doing it from a soul-aligned purpose instead of a should, everybody else is doing, this looks good purpose. And that's when the strategy actually becomes sacred. And you move from that proving energy, proving your worth, proving that you're capable, into pulsing with the flow and the rhythm of the universe. From that pressure to presence. Let that hit in your body. And every creative cycle is a return. It's a cycle. It's not a race. It's not linear. Every time it's a cycle, but we are rising. If you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see me going in a circle, but every circle, my hand is rising up and up and up. And this spiral is your map. And just as I did, transitioning from Witchy Wellness Radio into the Sovereign Self Show, that mechanism, that inner authority, that is the energy that we live by and that we guide you to do for yourself inside the portal membership. This membership is not a how-to strategy, but embodied strategy. Yes, we do include strategy, but from a body-led point of view for you to understand what's right and aligned with you. The kind of strategy that's felt first and then expressed second. You might relate to that story of Witchy Wellness Radio coming into the Sovereign Self show. And another word for that space in between manifestations where everything started to fall apart, launch plans, relationships, this illusion of control, the work that I thought I did, it really felt like the universe took my vision board and said, cute, now let's throw this all away. I came into what I call my quantum crumble. And at first I resisted. I thought, not again. But underneath this chaos, something in me really knew that this wasn't destruction, this was reorganization. Some of you guys might know this past year, I've been traveling full time, no home base, and it has brought up so much in me. And I took another sacred pause. I ended up closing down coaching programs that I had, mastermind programs, because I felt like just as my podcast before, I was here to speak to a different woman because I was a different woman. And so through all of this mess, I was able to surrender as we are traveling, seeing different places in this beautiful planet. And what I realize time and time again, sometimes it takes you feeling like everything is falling apart in order for everything to reorganize so perfectly. And that's part of a cycle. Cycle, we have birth, life, death, rebirth. And I think from that girl boss over masculine CEO energy, we think it's so linear. We think it's just go all the time, um, balls to the wall energy, which is great. I love working, like I love getting into the flow and I love creating. But if we don't leave time for that quantum crumble to actually tell a better story about what's happening instead of, oh my gosh, what am I doing? To question your worth, to feel the shame coming in, to allow this energetic cleanup and reorganization to happen. And those plans that you feel like might have collapsed, that's your timeline recalibrating. And the people who might have left, that's the energy reorganizing. And those emotions that came up that you thought, those patterns you thought you healed, that felt unbearable, those are those frequency upgrades in disguise, initiating you. And I went through this again. Like, these are the things that I help guide women through in the portal. But it took me this deeper initiation through traveling and seeing patterns in myself. Who am I? What I want to create in the world. Feeling all the emotions, all the energetic upgrades, all the solar flares. Hello, this year's been crazy. But I decided one night, I was like, I'm done. I've decided that, this is not my breakdown. This is my breakthrough. Breakthrough in motion. Everything's already shifting because I'm feeling all these things. And the moment I claimed that, everything shifted. Everything came into line. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is the path. The pathway is cleared. The peace returned. I started feeling like myself again, not as the strategist, but as the priestess, as the channel. So sometimes that quantum leap doesn't actually look like fireworks initially. It might look like everything is burning down so that your truth has somewhere new to land. It's the energy, it's the molecules recalibrating, shifting into that manifested state. So if you're listening and saying and thinking, but Lauren, I'm behind, I haven't done all of the XYZ. Listen, you are not behind. Because every pause, every quiet season, even listening to this podcast, every nothing's working moment is actually a sacred calibration, is a moment for your soul, your body to speak through you. And you're not being punished, you're being prepared. And you can't miss what's meant for you when your timing is divine, when you allow for this. So to reframe this, a spiral, the universe, the cycle of expansion itself does not care about your 3D perception of speed. It cares about your presence. So every evolution in my business, every leap, every miracle manifestation really came listening to my body before the metrics. And yes, sometimes it's difficult when those metrics are really good, when those numbers are high and you like it. But the truth is, my body is the algorithm. It is the metric, the meter. And when I stopped proving and started feeling into this and taking action or not taking action from it, everything clicked into place. Clients, creativity, cash flow, the podcast, and all of it began from flowing from the embodiment, from my body, and not forcing and not the over efforting. And that, my friends, is the essence of what we do inside the Portal membership. It's not about doing more, it's not about the next biggest strategy. It's actually about learning how to return to you again and again and again, to that rhythm of the truth that's already inside of you. So if this conversation cracks something open in you, stay close. The portal doors are opening soon, but the energy is definitely rising. I know you can feel it. I can feel it. Look in the show notes below for either joining the waitlist or joining us, becoming another sacred member within the portal, and you'll immediately receive my free visibility transmission ritual. Because your voice, your body, your energy is a strategy, your presence is that portal, and your timing is divine and perfect. Until next time.